Hello everyone and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How are we doing today, Steve? Are we on the eve of a exciting announcement or maybe not? Who knows? How are you doing?
I'm well. Hello FiST Chat fans. I am in Australia, but I'm staying up all night tonight to hear what they're going to say about Mars. And let me tell you, it better be history making. And not just because I spent all night awake.
Absolutely. So before we get into that, don't forget our website, www.fistchat.com. You can get all our links there. Don't forget you can catch our back episodes on Vimeo, YouTube and Digicosm TV. And Facebook and Twitter. You can interact with us there. And you can also subscribe to us via iTunes, RSS and FeedBurner. And also check out our blogs. We've got a lot of content going all the time, and it's always updating. So, because we're busy guys and we like to get out there. So
we certainly are, Ben. We certainly are.
Absolutely. So let's kick it off. NASA seems to be on the verge of announcing something potentially very important, and it's a shame that we're sort of we're recording this just before it's happening, but we'll probably do a recap next week as to what the actual announcement is. But it's all been rumors and speculation as to what they found. Did the rover find some signs of life or life? Who knows? What do you think, Steve?
Well, I think it's all very weird. There was the big announcement and NASA's been backpedaling ever since. So I think that's big news. And whether they announce it tomorrow or not, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say there's life on Mars. Not that Curiosity can actually detect life on Mars. Specifically, Curiosity can detect signs of life on Mars.
Right.
Whatever that means.
Absolutely. It's just a strange thing. Oh well, before we get onto that, can you maybe explain that in terms of the difference?
Well, Curiosity is equipped with a whole range of different sensors and analyzers, and basically what it can do very well is look for chemical compounds. Specifically in the soil is where they're looking at the moment on Mars, and there's good reason for that. And it should be able to find organic compounds which normally occur, which will, one, tell us whether or not Mars is habitable, and by habitable that means by anything organic and living. But secondly, it will also be able to say potentially if there are biological compounds as well, which would be a direct sign of life. They may have found that in the Martian soil, because even though the Martian atmosphere is very harsh, the Martian soil actually has got a lot of nutrients in it, just like Earth's soil. It's got water in there. When the sun comes out on Mars and it heats the subsurface of the soil, there may be just enough liquid water mixed with some nutrients. There might be life.
No.
There might be life, Ben. I believe there is life, even though I have no evidence for it.
Well, at this stage, we have to say might, but we can pretty much say, it probably will be. I would suggest as well, and maybe that's just the reason why NASA's maybe backpedaling on this, because this type of announcement would have to be extremely definitive. It would have to be like whatever evidence they get, whatever they find, has to be so definitive that nobody can argue with it.
That's right, and I think that's the problem, because getting back to this detecting signs of life, they can't actually directly say that they've seen life. So potentially they've got results which will say, firstly, it looks like there could be life, or it looks like there's an environment on Mars in which life could exist, which is very different to saying there is life.
Yeah.
And they're not going to want to go out there before they have 100% proof. So the reality is that even if there is life up there, we could be waiting a long time. Interestingly, the results from the 1976 Viking lander have been reviewed over this year, and they suggest that the module at the time may have detected life, but nobody realised back on Earth.
Okay.
So there you go.
No, well, I mean, that's a shame. We've been hanging out here for 30 plus years, and we could have known about it all this time.
Well, there's an interesting thing here for all FiST Chat fans as well, is that the Viking 1 lander landed on Mars 7 years to the day after man first set foot on the moon.
Okay.
And if they detected life on Mars, then imagine where we'd be now with space exploration. Very interesting.
Absolutely. So where, I mean, this is obviously, I mean, the rover only really just got there, so it's got a lot more time to explore and do its various bits and pieces.
Still got another 21 months.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So if they do manage to make this kind of big announcement, is that going to kind of overshadow anything else that it manages to dig up over there? Because that's really the big one, isn't it? That's the one that everyone wants to know.
Well, those results from the Viking lander 40 years ago suggested that, Mars was inhospitable and there was nothing there, no life. And it's only been the last 10 years with the advances in technology, telescopes and space probes now, where astrobiologists are saying there could be life, on moons like Titan or places like Mars. I mean, even just this week, they detected water on Mercury.
Yeah.
Ice on Mercury in the shadows where the rest of the surface temperature is over 500 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
That is incredible. So even though this wouldn't be life like we know it on Earth, organic life could exist in these places. And that changes everything. It even raises the likelihood that life on Earth could have been seeded from Mars, which is one of the theories. So very early on in the Earth's history, Mars got hit by an asteroid. There was life on Mars. Some of those chunks flew through space, got attracted by the Earth's gravity, and that's how life came on our planet. A little bit like Prometheus, Ben.
But perhaps a little less deliberate.
and a little bit less, animated as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's probably important to draw that distinction too, that we are talking about molecules, organic compounds, bacteria, this kind of life.
Very simple organisms.
I mean, everyone's sort of hoping for the dream scenario of finding aliens or whatever, but the problem is that, as we were discussing just before we got on, is that even though if this was to be shown to be right and it was there, and that means life could evolve somewhere else other than Earth, it's still actually extraordinarily difficult to get a complex organism such as a human to evolve.
Well, that's right. That also underpins why we should be so careful with the Earth. I mean, if life exists on Mars, it is going to be very minimal life, and it's not a life that any one of us would want to live. The reason that we have multi-celled animals like ourselves on this planet is because it's abundance of natural resources.
Yeah.
And you're not going to find that everywhere.
Yeah.
So we're very lucky not just to be here, but to be finding these wonderful discoveries on Mars.
Exactly.
I mean, just imagine, even if it's just bacteria, Ben, we're not alone.
Exactly right. And, it'll be maybe we can get those colonies happening just as they do in those sci-fi movies, and we'll be returning to Mars, not going to Mars if that's the case.
That's right. That's right. And let's hope that'll see a whole new raft of sci-fi movies.
Absolutely. And that seems to be a nice little segue into our film news bite. And this is more like a recommendation rather than anything. And this is even for ourselves because we haven't seen it, but it's the IMAX film from 2006 called Roving Mars. Documentary film about the development, launch, and operation of the Mars exploration rovers Spirit and Opportunity. And the film actually uses some actual photographs from Mars, and it also uses some computer-generated animation based on the photos and the data from the rovers. And haven't actually really heard too much about it. I'm pretty sure this would be something definitely worth checking out, especially in light of the fact that you just know that there's going to be some more of these things coming down the pipe at some point in the future.
Well, absolutely. And I think that one thing we were talking about before is the incredible resolution of the pictures from Curiosity now I think, they'll be able to remake a film like this IMAX film, possibly in the next year or two. And the resolution of those images that are coming back now is so amazing. It'll be incredible. And that will be a 3D film worth going to see, Ben.
Absolutely. So now if we move on to our science news bite, and we're talking about Times Person of the Year nominations. Now, obviously these are the people behind what we're talking about here, but the Mars Curiosity Rovers mentioned in there, and also the people behind the Higgs Boson, which we've mentioned on FiST Chat before. Not really a big surprise. I mean, they're two really big moments in scientific history, so to speak, and probably worthy of a mention at least.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I really hope that this year has seen a return of science to, the public psyche. I mean, as we were talking about before, to think that, humans landed a craft on Mars only 7 years after, they first set foot on the moon, and there's been not much happening since. But, there's all sorts of wonderful and amazing things happening in our universe, and for us to better understand what's going on out there, I think that's just wonderful. It's what dreams are made of, and it helps us understand and do better things here at home.
Absolutely, and it's important for it to be recognised too. Obviously Times, history of People of the Year has been controversial in the past. This is probably a bit more standard, I would have thought, because it's sort of like one of those, even like, say for example, the film that screams to win the Oscar and eventually does because the public demand it, kind of thing, instead of what the Academy voters want. This is like these two are like kind of the equivalent for the scientific side of things.
I completely agree. I think they should tie though, but if they don't tie, in my view, it'd be Curiosity ahead of Higgs Boson any day.
Oh, really? Okay. Is that your pick?
Well, if Curiosity finds signs of organic compounds that may mean life, then for sure.
Absolutely. All right, we'll move on to our final news bite now, and this is our tech one, and we're still space-bound, and it's important to know that about the communications in space, because obviously with the Mars rover, they have to be able to, the rover has to be able to send all of this information back via some sort of transmission. Now, this was an interesting thing I saw on the BBC website. Space Internet. This is a technology called Disruption Tolerant Networking, a protocol which can be used as a future way to communicate with astronauts on Mars. And at the moment, there could be problems when you're transferring between planets because information can be lost. But this new technology apparently is a more robust way of sending the data over vast distances. So, I mean, this is not really a surprise, but, it's quite interesting as well because, our internet on Earth is still essentially cable-based. If any one of those cables gets chopped anywhere, we're going to be cut off. And as with all of our devices and whatever we've got now, without that internet connection, you can't really do a whole lot more with them. I mean, there are some things you can do with them. So if we're talking about on a larger scale, transmitting data, this is really important to have this sort of thing.
That's right, Ben. I mean, if you're up somewhere like Mars and you're just taking a photo of an alien, you probably want to make sure that data gets back home okay. And solar flares or solar eruptions and changes to the Earth's atmosphere can sometimes block those transmissions. So what better idea than to have an internet node at the space station where your data's going to get to. And we get to see and hear everything that's happening out there in space.
Absolutely, absolutely. And maybe it'll filter back to what we're doing on Earth as well, as a more robust internet technology, because the internet can only improve as we go forward.
Yeah, well, that's right. But I'm sure the cloud's going to take care of that.
No, absolutely. We'll be flying in the clouds. We'll be watching the clouds, and we'll be living in the clouds. But there'll be different types of clouds.
That's right.
Absolutely. All right, Steve, we're out of time, so thanks again for the chat.
Anytime, FiST Chat fans. If you think that there's life on Mars, tweet us, let us know.
Absolutely, and we'll look forward to your report next week. We'll do a quick little recap based on whatever they do eventually announce, so I'm sure it'll all be good. So that's thanks again for tuning in. That's it for this week's episode, so we'll catch you next week.